All right, Dr. Nasha, thank you for being back with us. We just talked about the Train Advocate Program, one of the major projects that you guys launched last year. I think in July is when it started, and you're just now graduating your first 100, which is super exciting. Now let's talk about maybe a loftier goal, a more aggressive goal that your team has and project that is underway, called the Metabolic Terrain Institute of Health. So thank you for being with us once again. What is going on with MTIH? What is it, I guess? And then we'll talk about where we're at in the process.
Sure. Well, this crazy notion began shortly after my own diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer in 1991, fall of 1991. I just celebrated 30 years in fall of 2021. So that's
congratulations.
Thank you. It's like a blip. It's like, whoa, where did the time go? But one of the things that happened early on in my diagnosis within the first year and a half, 2 years, is I started to get very clear. And much like anybody else who's been on this journey, especially when you recognize, or in my situation, I was not given any options in standard of care because I was too far gone. So I was literally left out in the field to die. And I didn't expect, I really want people to know, I did not expect to live. That was not what I went after this. I wanted to understand why a 19, soon to turn 20-year-old was dying of this type of cancer. Right? It's like, it got me super curious, and it got me onto a mission of saying, well, while I'm going out, I want to figure out as much as I can about this.
Yeah.
Apparently that's still working for me. So I'm still learning this process.
Still figure out, why am I dying?
Seriously, like, but what happened early on is I started to get these, I guess I will call it what it was. It was these visions, these very clear dreams in my awake state that were just such. I saw the land, I saw the place, I saw everything so specifically. I knew exactly what it looked like. And what your listeners probably can attest to is, if you've been left to your own devices, or you've been out there searching for your own integrative approach, it's a full-time job. And most of the time you're going to make many mistakes. You're going to choose the wrong approach, and you will have to figure it out as you go. And for many people, that can turn to be a very fatal mistake, right? And so most of us don't have the luxury of bumping up against it. You're like, oop, that wasn't quite right. Oop, that wasn't quite right.
When you're on the edge of a knife, you can't misstep.
Exactly.
I have one good step I can make and a lot of bad steps.
Exactly. And because of my experience, I got curious. I dug in. I had nothing to lose. I also felt like I had nothing to gain. And so I wasn't limited by the constructs of fear. I wasn't limited by the constructs of what everybody else wanted for me, because there was nothing to offer me. This is before Dr. Google. This is 1991. I worked in a library where we still were using the Dewey Decimal System for me to re-put up the books, re-shelve the books during the day. It was thanks to that I did not have the unlimited, well-meaning resources that are out there today. I honestly tell people, I think it's harder today to be a patient diagnosed with a terminal illness than it was 30 years ago. Far harder. We have access to more things today, but we also have access to more ideas. And that also means access to more mistakes, right? And more second guessing your approach, because you're looking at, look, there's, so-and-so on this website's doing this, and I think I'm just going to try that on for size. It doesn't work that way. I lucky.
I think in Proverbs, maybe, or maybe it's Ecclesiastes, says where books abound, strife abounds.
That gave me goosebumps. Oh my gosh, such goosebumps. Yeah. Because I think that is it. It's like it was the overwhelming, crushing sensation I think people must meet today. I can't imagine. So I spent.
That's where we were 3 years ago, right? I mean, that resonates deeply with me. That feeling of like, oh my gosh, there was so much. And you've got the people who say chemo is poison and will kill you. Never do it. Yep. And you've got the people who say, vitamin C is really bad for you and will make your cancer proliferate. And it's like, I literally have to quiet the noise and learn how to research really fast.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're going to be static. Analysis paralysis. We're not going to move, and we have to move.
Exactly. You have to be in motion, and you have to have a methodology in order to know if you're on the right path. And so what started to reveal itself for me at that time was this desire, as I happened to like outlive for a few weeks my death sentence, and then a few months, and then a few years, and no one knew what to do with me. They literally did not know what to do with me. In fact, they started getting angry with me, which is a whole nother story, because I really rocked their world. I was breaking all of their constructs as well. Yeah. And so in that, I had to explore on my own. I had to read everything I could find. I then started to travel to and experience places all over Europe, all over Mexico, all over India that had different approaches to healing, many of which were in the same departments as the medical, like they were not separated out. So the chemo was done at the same time with the mistletoe, with the IV vitamin C, with the hydrotherapy, with the hyperthermia. So I was getting to see how the rest of the world in some places was able to blend the best of Western medicine with the best of integrated medicine.
Sure.
Started to inform a very different understanding. I had a lot of resistance to Western medicine in the beginning, and I think that actually delayed my process. I think I would have healed. I think I would have stabilized much quicker had I been more welcoming to utilizing the best what standard of care had to offer at that time. That was very humbling for me, and then now I'm very much a proponent of test, assess, address, don't guess, which is I test a lot. I'm known as the vampire, right? Like I take a lot of blood from a lot of people, myself included, to really look and see what we've got going on. I don't even prescribe a supplement without knowing what the lab is telling me. Like everyone hops on modified citrospectin, MCP. Well, if your galectin-3 is normal, it's kind of a wasted supplement. So I test your galectin-3. I mean, those are just examples. So what I started to see is that there was no one place where I could have one-stop shopping of someone to really look under the hood and tell me what was going on for me in that moment, where I could have the imaging done, where I could have, perhaps I needed a biopsy, perhaps I needed an ablative therapy, perhaps I needed some metronomic, super low dose fractionated chemotherapy or radiation for a little bit of tumor burden pushback so that the rest of my body could engage and be moving into this adaptive theory approach versus this maximum tolerated dose approach. And then I started learning about different pharmaceuticals and nutraceuticals and herbs and supplements that I had to, again, go through trial and error of putting this into my body. So out of this burst an idea of a place where it was all done under one roof, from the full assessment to the full treatment, and also the full modeling of how to live healthy on an unhealthy planet. And this was 30 years ago saying this. And we're really in a hot pickle, like we are definitely in a mess now of that, because it's gotten way worse. And so in the places I've traveled to, beautiful hospitals, to beautiful retreats, to beautiful resorts, to beautiful places in nature that touched my soul and brought healing to me. It's like I got to go shopping and put it in my basket. And like, this would be interesting. So this exhaustive list of all the things, my dream list coming together, what's going to live on this campus, almost came to fruition about 8 years ago when I had a very interesting philanthropic entrepreneurial person who was interested in investing in the whole idea, but he wanted to deviate from my plan of it being a nonprofit. I very much wanted this to be available because you can go to places that have a lot of these offerings under one roof, but you have to have somewhere between $150,000 and $300,000 to your disposal to get that. And some people have that, and that's great. That's fantastic. And that's helpful if they can carry that load, but the majority of us don't. And so I did not want someone's ability to live or die to be based on their their financials, right? So I knew that had to be a very important part of this. And I knew that philanthropic donations and research dollars would be very helpful in making this come to fruition. I also knew that we wouldn't have a place that would be covered by insurance and standard of care. I knew that because I've tried to work within that model for 30 years. And that model is inherently, it's a cancer. It's incredibly toxic. And so you can, as I tell people all the time, you cannot heal from the soil in which you got sick. You definitely cannot heal within a sick, soiled healthcare environment. It's just not possible. Can you get lucky sometimes? Yes, but you still have a 70% chance of recurrence or a 300% increase in having a brand new secondary cancer from your very first treatment. So what happens to all those people that fall through the cracks? We don't talk about them in the literature. We don't talk about them in the research. We just conveniently bury them literally and figuratively out of the way so we don't see that data. So I'm interested in all those outliers. I'm interested in those who want to have a better outcome with their standard of care. I'm interested in those people who, for whatever reason, can't do standard of care or too far gone or have been sent home to die and no one is wanting to take any risks. I mean, that's the vast majority of the patients I consult with are hospice eligible and on their last leg and told there's nothing that can be done. And I'm the person who's like, well, then get out of the way of the people that are doing it. Yeah. And so this hospital is exactly that. It is a 300-acre regenerative farm that one of the crops on that farm happens to be a hospital. And it's a residential.
I love that.
Isn't it, right? And it is a residential research, residential integrative cancer hospital and research institute. So it's all under a big like IRB. People come there knowing I'm coming to a place that does not have FDA approval of this, but it has well vetted research and evidence informed. Some with actually more evidence, and it's a for cash only environment. We can give people super bills if they want to attempt on their own out of that, because we don't want to spend 50% to 60% of our resources, which are done in hospitals today, on billing and the insurance model. We can actually cost share and drive down the cost of labs, the cost of imaging, the cost of very expensive treatments by having this cash-based model where we're not paying 6 other people a full-time salary to do your billing. We can cut our cost of the environment. We can have places that we don't have to have entire departments, so we can cut our building costs down. A typical remodel on a brand new hospital today is like $150 to $250 million. Our entire campus can be built, our entire hospital can be built for less than $100 million from the ground up.
I imagine a lot of the administrative roles at this point in a virtual world can probably
100%.
Maybe not outsourced, but at least I don't need to build you an office for this thing that you're going to be in here once a week. Yeah,
exactly. So these are the blessings of what's happened in the last 2 years has pushed this vision into reality. As people are becoming more global families, to know that these types of facilities will exist. And to your point of, okay, well then they have a doctor who's trained with me, who's sending them to our campus to get a full workup, full treatment. They have an advocate who's going to make sure that everything they go home with is continued on. And then eventually these little hospitals, will be cropping up. I mean that pun specifically all over the world. We are starting the prototype, the pilot here. And so we will be raising all of our food. We will be off the grid. We will be hardwired in. We'll have building biologists. So literally every single detail from the soil amendment before we even start digging into it to build a structure to what that structure is made of and from is going to be taken into account. And so we expect to be a model of the future. Not just in healthcare, but in living on this planet in accordance with how nature intended. And so that is critical to this being successful. And it's also not available to everybody. You don't just go, I'm just going to go to this hospital. There is an expectation of reciprocity. So if you don't have the funds and you meet the ability to have a scholarship, you will still be like, what are your skills? Are you handy in the garden? Can you teach an art class? Do you want to just come out and brush the horses in the equine therapy center? Do you want to, everyone will get their hands in the soil. Everyone will be next to the chefs in the kitchen. Everyone will take their turn, like literally soil to the soul is our tagline. And so everyone will be in a community experience. Everyone has value to bring to the table. And that can be a huge changing point in people's outlook and outcomes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It is a little bit of a tangent, but friends of ours are missionaries in Mozambique, Africa.
Wow.
And we connected with them in the last couple of years. They have started the first and only cancer convalescent home in Mozambique. So there's one hospital that does cancer treatment. And primarily, if you get cancer anywhere in the country, you go there, you sit in a bed, you're largely ignored for 3 to 6 months. You get your treatment. You might survive, you might not. You might head home, you might not. And so they really had this heart for being a family and being a home for those people. And so as you talk about farming and things, they have I think an acre or 2 acre place where they have housing and they have gardening that happens. And Everyone pitches in for cooking and communal meals, and
yes.
so it all just sounds similar in that sense. You know, they're not doctors, they're not treating, but they are caring for the souls and the hearts of these people, and it's a vision that we've really connected with.
Oh my gosh, I have such chills, and I would love. I mean, here's the purpose. Being a research institute, what we do as well. I bet you don't have to spend millions of dollars on a study to show that those people have a better quality of life and likely better quantity of life just with that experience. And it had nothing to do with a pharmaceutical or surgical intervention or a radiation intervention or even off-label drug or a integrated therapy. It was so much around what I call my version of the CDC, Centers of Disease Control, which is circadian rhythm, diet, and community. Those are integral to someone having a successful foundation to build upon.
Yep.
And if any one of those are missing, the whole thing can topple pretty quickly. And what those friends of yours are offering is their version of the CDC in the most profound way, and maybe the only time those folks have ever truly received deep healing. Yeah, and so I just think that's really powerful too.
It's very powerful and encouraging. Every time we get to talk to them, it's pretty great.
I would love to know them. So please. Wow.
we can definitely connect you.
Wow. Amazing. And what's interesting about this vision is how many people are coming out of the woodworks from people who work in underserved communities. So communities where there's what they call opportunity investment communities, where you've got, a lot of people of color, you've got a lot of disparities socioeconomically, you've got a lot of barriers, socioeconomic barriers, educational barriers. We're in the southeast part of Arizona in a very, what they call opportunistic environment that lends itself to bringing health to a community that otherwise wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
So like even on our campus, we'll have an early childhood development center, which we're looking to partner with this incredible foundation that, otherwise this would not be financially available to these communities, but people working on our campus, which we expect to bring in, well over 1,000 jobs to the area. Their kids will have a place to go. That's on awesome. The campus that they can be with their children during the workday. Can you imagine on this beautiful farm and
incredible.
And the kids are going to be nourished. The family, everyone who works on that campus will be fed from that campus. Everyone who's gone through that, who's works for our campus will also go through the Train Advocate program. Everyone, whether you're sweeping the floors or whether you're giving the IVs, is going to have the same training. So we all have the same understanding and philosophy and value system to help hold that sacred container for people to come and have absolute healing. And it may be a hospital, but nothing about it will feel like the sterile environments that people are accustomed to experiencing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
where are you guys at in this process?
We are now in our capital campaign fundraising. We have some interesting potential. We may know here in the next couple of weeks if we actually just got funding for the entire project.
Oh, wow.
So there are some serious items raining down on us right now. And but at the worst case scenario is we were able to fundraise our down payment or our escrow payment for the land. So that is something that I couldn't have said a couple of months, a month ago. At the end of 2021, we met our goal there. So we are moving absolutely in the direction. And with my relationships in the regen ag world, and speaking in the acres community and others, we have all of these beautiful farmers and ranchers and orchardists coming forward saying, we want to help you start amending that soil even before you start to build on it. Just think about that, just the intention going into the earth and what she can offer us in return in caring for her first, what a difference there before you even put a shovel in the dirt and start turning it from dirt to soil and from soil up into the soul. I mean, that's the vision amazing. Of this.
So this is a 300-acre plot of land.
Yeah, it is.
Over 75. Do you know what the land has been used for previously?
It was part of a giant family ranch for many, many generations. It's now been a preserve for the last 12 or 15 years. So it's butted up against major protected federal land. Yep. It's also been basically resting. Nothing's been grown on it. It's been used. There's been cattle grazing on it. So at least we got some poo in the mix there. There's a lot of huertas, a lot of washes. So with the proper conservation, we'll be able to actually collect and contain our water more readily than it's been used. Instead of having to just wash away, we'll be able to actually work with it and have it revitalize the land to another level. So it's just been waiting patiently for us for some time. We almost closed on it a couple years ago, and thanks to lots of circumstances, we paused it. But it's looking like it's
the same area of land that you've been looking at for a few years. Wow, that's exciting.
And so that's been really interesting because they've had like watching other people come and almost buy it because it was set up as an 87 family home, build out. So it has all it's what's really unique about it. It already has all of most of the permits, everything we want to do there, except for two things just need to be kind of cleared up, which is what we're doing in the vetting process. But all of the things we want to do on that campus is already permitted for it, zoned for it. So those are miracles. It already has infrastructure. So we're not totally starting underground. Yep. We have resources that are available to us, and it's in a very desirable location of Southeast Arizona that has such unbelievable potential for growth and an interest in this type of living. There's such a wellness, like a lot of people wanting to age well. Out there. So the campus has the hospital, but it will also have a wellness center. It will have a conference center that can house up to 500 people. It will have an equine therapy center. It will have retail that's from the green and life-giving, commerce zone. It will have a farm-to-table restaurant. It'll have a food bank. It'll have an early childhood development center. It'll have a hospice. It will have, it will be a town. It will be a little community, like housing of all types, of all monies. There'll be from high-end, like kind of resort like living to even a really great camping spot like on the property. Yeah. It's just huge.
That's incredible.
It is. And over 75% of the land will be farmed. So it will supply all the food for not just the community there, but the surrounding communities as well.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing with us about that. Yes. Apologies for the train. Is that coming through?
I heard it just a little bit, but it's kind of like music to my ears. Okay. I like it.
Perfect. Yeah, we have a train track right here. Wow. It kind of shakes the house. Anyways, we'll link below for anyone who wants to follow along with the project. Is there social media that people can follow along specific to that project? Is that up and running yet?
We are. It's funny. You have to realize all of this that I'm talking about has been created by 4 people.
Yeah.
And we're about to expand ourselves to like 6 people this year. And hopefully with some other fundraising, we'll be able to double our staffing and whatnot to help this. So luckily we've got some people who are just really donating a lot of their time for the expertise in social media and whatnot. The mtih.org website will continue to evolve and grow and expand. We have a newsletter now. People can sign up for that so they can keep abreast of what's going on there. Yep. We'll have ongoing kind of capital campaigns. We want people to be like, I would love for people to like have a brick with their name or a loved one on it that they helped literally build the foundation of this. Things like that are coming into fruition, which I'm very, very excited about. And we hope to have a farm to table dinner out there sometime in 2022 and bring people out to see the vision, to walk the land, to feel the land, because it's pretty magical in this part of the world. And so I'm very looking forward to trying to share and reveal more as we sign the dotted line. I think it will.
Awesome. Well, we will be following along. Yeah, we will definitely be following along. This is exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Nasha, for sharing with us about this project.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to share something that is so deeply personal and has been so part of my journey. And what's kept me going is to know that this was going to come to fruition. I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime. I was starting to question it even in the last few years. Yeah. And it's becoming very clear that it is going to happen in my lifetime. And I am.
That's great.
I talk about feeling absolutely blessed to be able to watch this come to fruition is pretty incredible.